matter where you go, no matter what you do, take that Maui style with you. Cause if you ain't Maui styling, you just living on an island. Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 There is sunshine in your heart. It's been with you from the start. Lift your head, look to the heavens, then you will feel brand new again. Don't stop me now, Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Reach out your hand and help each other. Your mother, your father, your sister and brother. There is love in this family. Pick yourself up and get on your feet. Don't stop me now, Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Makena styling, up country styling, Campo styling, Kahanapali styling, Hana styling, Wai'ehu styling, Bahia styling, Keanai styling. Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Maui styling, Maui styling, don't stop me now. Maui styling.
Aloha and welcome to Airielle's World. Today I have a very, very, very special guest for you. We have with us today Gary Young, and he is the owner and founder of Young Living Essential Oils, which some of you may know and some of you don't. If you don't, you should, and you will. So thank you,
Airielle,
Gary.
thank you for inviting me. It's fun to be here on the island and enjoying the beauty of Maui as always, and especially the people.
The people are wonderful, aren't they?
Well, they are, and all the islands. You know, I've been on many of them, and they're pretty much the same. Beautiful people.
Well, I have to tell you, Gary, I'm prejudiced for Maui.
I can understand.
I think Maui is no kaoi, which means the best.
The best. I was reading that this morning, as a matter of fact. That's a really good description.
Well, you know, Maui, according to kahunas, is the heart chakra of the planet.
That I didn't know.
And it does have very, very hard energy, and the people here are very beautiful. I love you very much. So Gary, I'm very excited to have you here. We've been the past 4 days I've spent with Gary, which have just been miraculous. I'm so excited about his oils, his supplements, but mostly about him, because he is an amazing person who has overcome tremendous difficulties. He leaves you no excuses to say you can't do it.
Thank you, Airielle. Those are kind words.
Thank you. Well, it's true.
Well,
And
it's been a journey.
I bet it has been a journey. I know it has been a journey. So Gary has brought himself from a wheelchair where they told you you would never walk again. Is that correct?
Yes. The injury that I had was from being hit on the head with a tree, and the tree came off the right side of my head and onto my shoulder, and fracturing the skull, 3 open skull fractures, severing the brachial plexus, fracturing the shoulder, the scapula, breaking the collarbone, severing all the ribs from the right side of the spine, broke T5, T9, and L4 and 5, and ruptured the spinal cord between 4 and 5.
Wow, that's an awful lot.
It was a painful experience,
I'm sure it was.
to say the least.
And you woke up in the hospital, obviously.
Yes.
And they told you you would never walk again.
Well, after I was in a coma for 3 weeks, and they told my father and my mother within an hour and a half after arriving at the hospital that I would probably not live more than 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and a half maximum, that they expected me to live at that time. And when I went beyond that time by another 6 hours, then they started feeling there was a possibility that I would live, but that I would likely not recover from the coma and would eventually pass away from that state. When I recovered from the coma, then that's when they informed me that I would never walk again, and I would probably only at best regain maybe 5 to 10% movement in my right arm and my right hand.
You must have been really scared.
Scared?
Or do you not get scared?
Scared was not really a description that fit this. It was more of a sense, Airielle, of shock depression, of just realizing, because in that moment, and it was a few days after I came out of the coma, because I was suffering with amnesia coming out of the coma, and so it was about 7, 8 days after that I started coming out before the news was really brought to me of my condition. And I remember the doctor expressing his feelings as he asked me. He says, "Mr. Young," he says, "how are you feeling right now?" And I said, "Well, I don't feel much of anything." And of course I was drugged pretty heavy. And he said, "Well, it's probably important at this time for you to realize that you've got a very serious injury that could result in being handicapped the rest of your life." And he was trying to find words to say it, and I looked up at my mother. I remember looking up at my mother, and she was crying. My father was very stern, but I could tell the look in his face that there was something really wrong. And I said, what do you mean I could be handicapped?" And he said, "Well, I've already discussed this with your mother and father. They're quite well aware." And he said, "You're not going to walk again." And it was like, at that moment, it was like I was in a state of almost losing consciousness. It's like the whole room just started spinning and turning black. And I just went numb all over. And I couldn't even express a feeling, because I didn't even know what I was really feeling. It was just this overwhelming black cloud that just came over me and just engulfed me, and it just, like I was just spiraling down into this dark hole.
Well, I can imagine. I think I would have just, I don't know that I would have had the strength that you had to pull out the way you did at all.
You know, it's amazing. The human body has abilities that we don't know we have at times. And even though I was a relatively strong person physically, I'd had a few little challenges in my life at that time growing up, but this is a whole different ball game when you're told that you're never going to walk again. And then it was a few minutes after that before he told me the condition of my right arm. And the blessing of the whole thing was that I was left-handed. Had it been my left side, it would have even been more devastating. But because I was left-handed and I still had the use of my left hand, you know, I was still able to do, at least sign my name and write. But at that moment, I didn't care. It was like, it didn't matter that my mother and father was there, my wife was there, that my children, it just didn't matter. It's like everything was wiped out. And nothing existed or had meaning at that time.
I can't even imagine. I've had my own health problems, and when I think of mine, yours are so, that was so far beyond anything that I could imagine. And yet you pulled yourself out of it. You were so determined to heal yourself.
It took time. I spent 2 years in the wheelchair, actually 26 months, and then as I started coming out of that and I started to recover, of course the recovery process was very interesting, because what I did at first, I slashed my wrist the first time, tried to end my life. They found me, they transfused me, and then the second time I overdosed on morphine, because I was on morphine anyway, and they found me, pumped my stomach. So the third time I said, okay, I'm gonna just starve myself to death, and I refused to eat. And I just started just drinking water with lemon in it, like what we've got right here. And I thought, okay, you know, I can do this, and they can't force me to eat, and I'm out of this life.
Yes.
And it got boring. The lemon and water got boring, and so I started adding a little maple syrup to it to create a little flavor. And I guess in the reality, my subconscious mind was really saying, no, I don't want to die. But I went from over 225 pounds to 132 pounds. And on the 256th day, I woke up that morning and I felt my toe move against the blanket. And that was the beginning of my recovery. And Dr. Buckler, the neurologist, the specialist that was looking after me, his explanation was simply that because I didn't eat, I didn't take enough protein in, that I didn't develop the scar tissue that normally would develop around a ruptured spinal cord, and the nerves started to reroute themselves.
Wow.
That was his explanation. And you know, it took another 13 years, well 7 years from that time, of going from the walker back and forth in the wheelchair, crutches, back to the walker, back to the wheelchair, and 13 years before I actually walked without assistance.
I didn't realize it took that long for you.
It was a long time.
And now you're absolutely a specimen of good health. You are so beautiful, like
Thank
hunky
you.
shoulders.
Well, part of that was from wheeling the wheelchair.
But I think a lot of that too is from how you take care of yourself.
It is. I live a very strict diet. I realize that if I'm going to expect my body to rejuvenate, then I've got to put nutrients in there that's going to feed the cells and not things that are going to destroy life in the cell. And so 80% of what I eat is raw and fresh. We only eat organic, and even when we travel, we take a lot of our own food with us, because I won't eat unless it's organic food.
Yay! Got that? We keep saying that. Eat organic.
Well, life begets life and death begets death. And you know, and I really believe that very, very firmly. And it's a wonderful feeling now, even though I still have some limitations, but it doesn't stop me from doing anything in life. And
Well, I guess you would know those limitations, but I certainly over the past 4 days didn't see any. I mean, I saw you jump up on that stage, and you look, as I said, like a specimen of health. I mean, your legs are very strong.
very strong. I don't have feeling and sensation in my legs like normal or used to have, and so, you know, I have to be cautious, you know, because I get bumped or cut or something, and I don't know how serious it is. 2 weeks ago, I was jousting. Actually, it was Memorial Weekend. We had a jousting tournament, and my horse ran me into the tilt rail and took a chunk out of my shin, and I didn't even know. You know, I felt the bump, but I didn't realize how bad it was till I got off the horse and blood was running down my boot. You know, those little things. But
oh my gosh. Can you imagine? He's not supposed to be walking and he's jousting. You're pretty amazing, Gary.
Well, I love the challenge, and I love just, I have to keep putting a challenge in front of me. I have to have something there that keeps leading me into discovery and challenging my body to keep pushing it. Because it's too easy to become complacent, and you know, and once you're past 50, and I'm 55, then, you know, it's easy to get complacent. and the body starts to slow down, and you start to age, and I feel that if I stay in that space of mentally being 25, then it'll keep my body healthier longer.
Well, I wouldn't know about that since I am only 25, but I better pay attention to how to do it. So how did that accident take you to founding this company with your wonderful oils? I must tell you, these are the best oils on the planet.
Well, that's a fun question. I couldn't log anymore, and I couldn't ranch, and that's what I was doing. And I went back to school. And the thought that I had, I was going to become a medical doctor, because I really felt I wanted to heal people. From going through what I had gone through and making the discovery of herbs and fasting, and it was the fasting that was really the catalyst that started my healing process. And I was so excited, I really want to share it with everyone. And I want to share it with the world. And my mother, when I was a little boy, told me that she wanted me to be a doctor. She said, "Son, you've got special feelings, you got special energy in your hands." And of course, at that age, who could care? So that was the direction. I went back to school to become a medical doctor, and one day in my medical tech class, the professor stood up and said, "Now, students, I want you all to know, and I want you to hear this. There never has been, there never will be a cure for cancer, or arthritis, or lupus, or any other degenerative disease." And I raised my hand and I said, "Sir," I said, "could I comment?" And he said, "Yes, Gary, comment on that." And I said, "You're an absolute liar." I said, "Every disease on this planet can be cured and can be healed." What he didn't know at that time, my first wife had gone through thyroid cancer with our fourth child, and I healed her with fasting and with herbs. And they wanted to terminate the pregnancy and then remove the thyroid and do radiation. And we did it all with fasting and with herbs at that time. So I really refuted what he said there, and he told me to sit down and shut up.
Wow.
We were in a theater auditorium, 72 medical students, and I stood up and faced the students and I said, "No, listen, do not let this professor lie to you and convince you of what is real. Every disease can be healed and every disease can be cured. Perhaps not through the system that he teaches, but God gave us a system that can be done. And I've healed my own body, and I've healed my wife from cancer." And he got mad, yelled at me, told me to sit down, shut up. And I said, "You can take your medical school and shove it where the sun doesn't shine." And I walked out and decided to go into naturopathy and become a naturopath. And so it was through that process when I opened my first practice, a research clinic in Mexico, and I had a family practice in Chula Vista for 8 years. And it was at this time that I was searching, constantly searching for new things for my patients, that a lady, 1985, walked into my clinic from Switzerland, Zurich, Switzerland, with her sister who was living in California that had breast cancer. She brought her there to investigate what I was doing, see if we could offer any help. And through the course of the interview, she asked me if I knew anything about essential oils. And I said, "Oh, you mean that tea tree stuff and that peppermint and eucalyptus they sell in the health food stores?" And I said, "Been there, done that, tried that." And this is what she said to me, Airielle, that just changed everything. She looked me in the eye, she said, "Dr. Young, do you believe there are different qualities of herbs?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "There are different qualities of oil also. And in America, they do not have therapeutic oils." That was where it began. And 1 week later, I found myself at the Medical University in Geneva, Switzerland, studying essential oils with two medical doctors, Dr. Jean-Claude Leprade and Dr. Paul Dufour. And that began my journey.
Wow, that is so exciting. And you know, I have used other oils over the years, but nothing like the oils that you have given to the world for use.
And it's true, Airielle, and unfortunately, when I brought oils back to North America in 1985, I started the research with them. And I was a novice. I knew absolutely nothing. In fact, many of you watching this program know more about essential oils now than I knew then, certainly. And all they taught at the university in Geneva at that time, it was a 40-hour course that I took. It was strictly on the chemistry of the oils and their antibacterial effects on respiratory conditions. And so I came back and started experimenting with patients. But what was interesting is I started to grow and I started to expand the research on that. I was back in Europe 2 and 3 times a year attending Warwick University, Paris University, Geneva University in Vienna, or the Vienna University in Austria, Cairo University. I did over 120 hours at Anadolu University in Eskişehir, Turkey on essential oil chemistry and gas chromatogram, mass spectrometry, the analysis of the oil. I went everywhere I could go. I went to the Hebrew University in Jerusalem to study the biblical foundation of essential oils and where it evolved. Why did they bring frankincense and myrrh to the Christ child? And you know, so many times, I mean, we read the story, we hear about it at Christmas time, but we don't even get into the emotion of it most times because it's a story that we don't relate to.
Well, why did they?
Would you want me to share that?
Yes, sure.
Well, there were 3 gifts as we read about in the Bible: myrrh, frankincense, and gold. Well, the question that I kept asking myself, knowing once I started learning oils in Cairo, and I learned the legends, the stories about Christ coming to Egypt 3 times. It was 3 times when he was a child and then twice when he was a young adult. The last time, the 5th time he was in Egypt, he was between 20 and 21. He was attending the Temple of Edfu, receiving his priesthood, as it's called by some today, or priestcraft, his priest studies. He went through the studies to become a priest. And when he graduated, as we would call it, from the temple, they gave him 5 jars of oils for his graduating and parting gift to take back to his country to begin his ministry. Those are the stories that are told in Egypt by the ancient people. And their writings and their legends, you know, that go with that. And so I followed that. I started studying that, looking at that. Okay, why? And through that learning, I also learned at that time that gold didn't have much value. It was used for jewelry, for decoration, but it didn't have the value that frankincense and myrrh had. And when we go back a little bit, we look at when they opened King Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922 and removed 350 liters of essential oil, because the king's value was measured in the volume of oil that he possessed. He traded land for land with oil. He traded for wives with oil. Everything he owned and possessed, he bartered with it with oil, because that was the medium of exchange. It had far more value than gold. So I said to myself, why would then they bring 2 precious gifts to the Christ child and 1 so-so gift? You know, and you have to ask yourself, if I had the opportunity to bring 3 gifts to the Christ child, would you bring 2 precious gifts and 1 maybe not so precious?
No, I wouldn't. I would bring the best I could find.
Yeah, and I think we all would. And so that took me on the next journey to southern Arabia, to the frankincense land, to walk the frankincense trail, and to the lost city of Ubar that was called the City of Od, where it happened to be a trading center for frankincense and myrrh and balsam. And the merchant ships had come into the Queen of Sheba, port of Queen of Sheba, which is east of Salalah, Oman, and they would bring their silks and their spices and various things and their crafts. They would load the camels and go inland 150 kilometers to the city of Od, and there they would trade for the resin of frankincense and myrrh, but they also discovered something else. They were distilling the frankincense and myrrh resin there, and they had the oils. And it was the oil that was taken on camel caravan to Bethlehem from there. You see, frankincense oil was called liquid gold. And I learned this at the Hebrew University, that through the translation over time, the liquid got dropped. So it became frankincense and myrrh and gold, instead of frankincense and myrrh resin and frankincense and myrrh oil. Now the reason for that is because it was a tradition that was practiced for 3,000 years, that the queens, the princesses, the women living in the royal house, when they would conceive a child that was going to be a king or queen or prince or princess, their bodies were protected and anointed with the oils. Soon as a woman conceived and they knew it, then her tummy was anointed daily, multiple times a day with frankincense, because they believed in evil deities, which we know now are what we call disease. And they believed as long as they kept the frankincense on the womb or on the tummy, that the evil disease, deity or disease couldn't enter the womb and possess the future king or queen or prince or princess. And so that was a practice. They also, prior to delivery, within a few weeks prior to delivery, they would start massaging the myrrh oil on the perineum because it prevented infection and it increased the lacticity, so labor was with ease. Now there was another thing that was very interesting. When the child presented, then they anointed the crown with frankincense, again so the evil deities could not enter the mind of the child. As the child delivered and was placed on the mother's tummy, the umbilical cord was covered with myrrh oil. This prevented any infection. This is how the Christ child was delivered, and whether it was handled in the same way. But during this time, there was a type of birth that was practiced called lotus birth. That type of birth meant that the placenta stayed attached to the umbilical cord. They didn't sever the umbilical cord. Their belief was that there was tremendous emotion created in the womb, and particularly coming through the birth canal and being presented into this new dreary world. And that created tremendous trauma and emotion. If the placenta stayed attached, the emotion would go back out and into the placenta.
Wow.
Yes, amazing clearing and rebirthing process that they practiced. And they believed that when all the emotion left the child and went back to the placenta, then the placenta would shrivel and detach on its own. And that was called the lotus birth. So in order to prevent infection, they would cover the umbilical cord and the placenta with the myrrh oil. And of course we know now today that part of the terpenes in myrrh would cause dehydration to take place, which would help with the dehydrating of the placenta and the detaching. But we know now through science that myrrh oil is one of the most powerful anti-infectious oils that exists, and it's far more powerful than any substance made by the pharmaceuticals as an anti-infectious compound.
So why don't they use frankincense and myrrh today on every pregnant woman available?
Well, those of us who know it, we do. I delivered my last 2 children that way. And most remarkable experience. And we use it exactly. I learned this in Oman. I went into the libraries and I studied. And in fact, Airielle, I have one of the most beautiful books that I brought back called The Plants of Beaufort, and that's the region where the frankincense and the myrrh grows in southern Arabia.
Wow.
And it tells the legends and the stories of the frankincense and myrrh and how they use frankincense to cure baldness and blindness, and it was used as a antidote for poisonous snake bites. I mean, it was used for everything. So just remarkable.
I'll tell you, your wife Mary is a very beautiful woman, by the way.
She is.
And what a lucky lady to have being treated as if she's delivering 2 princes for you.
Exactly, and they are, in our heartfelt feelings, they truly are.
They are. And they look it too. That this man is so beautiful with his children. We should
Thank you.
thank you. His children travel with him. They're always together with them. That just makes my heart so happy.
Well, Airielle, is part of bringing back old customs and traditions, and that's the family being together. And our world and our society today is about separating families. You look at just on the workforce, the husband has to go off here and work, and the wife goes off here and works, and children are put in daycares or in, nursing home, or not nursing homes, but children's daycares and nurseries is the word I was looking for, and babysitters, and the children know the babysitter or the daycare person better than they know the parents. And now the computers and the computer games and things that children get caught up in, and to where there's not that unity in the family. And when Mary and I made the decision to bring 2 new spirits into the world, we made the decision that they would never know a babysitter. They would never know a nursery, and they do not. And the only babysitter they've ever seen has been their grandma. And so they go with us. If they don't go, I don't go.
I love it. I love it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Going back to your frankincense, when I use your frankincense oil and I put it on my third eye here, on my crown, I feel like somebody is, this whole area is just opening up, Gary.
It literally does. And the reason that Airielle has this sensation, this feeling, is because when you apply an essential oil, and regardless of whether it's on the hand or the forehead or the bottom of the feet, it will go into the derma fluids, the subderma fluids in the body, and be transported through the entire body from head to foot in 20 minutes or less. It will touch every single cell. The sesquiterpene activity in essential oils such as frankincense, they have the ability to pick up oxygen. In fact, it's scientifically documented that frankincense will uptake the oxygen around the pineal gland and pituitary up to 28%. And that's why you get the feeling of the opening. Essential oils have the ability to cross the neurocortex, which sound and many other things will not cross. That's why it's so powerful in helping people make a where they feel a sense of spiritual connection, because it literally empowers their spiritual senses. And it opens up and triggers the amygdala, and the amygdala is the gland that's responsible for the fight-flight syndrome, which records memory and particularly emotional trauma. And so as we're finding with essential oils, they are the most powerful substance for helping us to release and let go of emotional trauma.
But all of the oils bring extra oxygen into the body.
Oh, absolutely. Some at higher levels. Now, another thing that we just discovered, and this has been documented, we've been in this research phase for 2 years, and it's being published. We'll be presenting it at our conference in Nashville, Tennessee in October, that frankincense, myrrh, sandalwood, and peppermint oil prevent DNA breakdown, but also they not only prevent the breakdown, but they repair DNA. And that is something that is so phenomenal. There's been nothing in the world like it yet today.
That's just amazing.
It is.
How can it prevent DNA back? I don't understand that. How can it prevent the breakdown?
Well, there's a mechanism that takes place there, and one is the oxygen coming in. Because it's just like if you sunburn. Sunburn dehydrates the skin, and when there's dehydration, this compromises the DNA and will cause DNA breakdown. So the essential oils, but these oils particularly, increase the oxygen at the DNA level, and they increase the memory, and they also have the ability to deliver nutrients to prevent that breakdown and to repair it if it should happen. So they work as a delivery mechanism at the same time.
Wow, that's totally amazing.
And another thing I might just share with your audience, if I may.
Please.
We just concluded a 2-year study at Brigham Young University on essential oils in treatment of cancer. We tested 4 cancer cell lines: cervical cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, and skin cancer. We tested 79 oils, and out of 79, 15 of these oils tested higher than 90% in a kill effect against these 4 cancer cell lines. And some of the oils like sandalwood and tsuga, which tsuga comes from a conifer in northern Idaho, has an effective 99.10% kill ratio against breast and cervical cancer.
Wow.
And Airielle, here's the other part that is fabulous of this story. We know that a lot of botanicals have been studied for treating various cancers. We also know these botanicals, like the extract from the bark of the yew tree that they tested back in the 80s for malignant melanoma. But what they found with that, it also had a 30% toxic effect against normal cells. And that's why that research disappeared and went away. This is the key that is so magical with essential oils. And this is what just exploded the research at the university that we're doing today. And that is that the oils had zero, folks, zero toxicity against normal cells. This is the first time in the history of our world that this study has ever happened. The first time a botanical has ever been tested against cancer that showed zero toxicity to normal cells. And now the whole research at BYU is just exploding as we're taking it to the next phase.
That's just amazing. I mean, so many women with breast cancer.
Oh, it's scary.
So many of my friends.
Yes.
I've lost a number of friends now from breast cancer.
You know, and in our clinic, we have the medical research clinic in Springville. We're dealing with patients every single day. And we're now 4 years with our patients in remission for breast cancer, adenocystic carcinoma, the parotid gland, lung cancer, prostate cancer. And all we're using, cleansing, and using the oils. Because it's strictly research and documentation. And now we're 4 years with over 200 patients in remission of cancer from the oils. And so the potential of what we're seeing, and now the universities are starting to discover it. Dr. Michael Gould at the University of Wisconsin wrote a documentary on the power of lemon oil in treating breast cancer in guinea pigs. And so it's starting, there's research coming out of Purdue University on cancer now. And just 2 weeks ago, we started research, or I shouldn't say 2 weeks ago, a year ago, research on balsam that we're producing at our farm in St. Mary's, Idaho. And the University in Paris, France, just published a paper, and it can be picked up on Medline, on the effects of balsam oil in treating seven solid tumor lines of cancer. And that's available off of Medline right now.
So what do the MD doctors say about this?
Well, the majority are naturally still skeptical. But the doctor who is a truth seeker sees it and is excited about it. I did a seminar 4 weeks ago, I believe it was 4 or 5 weeks ago in Wichita, Kansas. We had 52 doctors that showed up at that seminar that I did a special presentation for. The doctors who are truth seekers are looking for truth, and they are absolutely excited. And that's why I wrote and published the book, Essential Oils, Integrative Medicine. And it's just loaded with 400 pages of documentation.
And where do we get that book?
From Essential Science Publishing in Orem, Utah.
Okay, we will give you that information after the show on your screen.
So, Airielle, that's why I have such a passion about this. There's, without question, there's nothing, I've seen nothing in my 25 years of working in alternative medicine that can rejuvenate, modulate the immune system, fight infection, and one more thing that your audience will probably be interested in knowing. Today, they have not found a single virus, not a single virus, folks, that can mutate in the presence of some of these oils like mountain savory, oregano, thyme, lemon. It is phenomenal what we truly are seeing here.
But what about all these killer viruses, Gary, that are around, and the bacteria that will it prevent our people from that as well?
Yes, it will. However, remember this, there are no magic bullets, all right? Number one, the most important thing we can do is take care of our body. Not put the things in to destroy it like alcohol and coffee and cigarettes and junk food, soda pop. They have now linked, and I don't know if you saw this research, just came out 2 weeks ago. They have now linked soda pop consumption with esophageal cancer. In 1996, UCLA published a paper linking soda pop consumption with Lou Gehrig's disease. So we're seeing the documentation coming out that the things that we thought were fun and that we enjoyed in the fast food industry are killing us, literally killing us. It's destroying our immune system. When our immune system breaks down, we become a host for these conditions. Will the oils prevent it? We know the oils will stop a virus. We know it will prevent a virus from invading the body. But if our immune system is not working, can the virus come back? Absolutely.
So, Gary, what makes your oils any different than how they would go and pick up an oil at the health food store?
At the stores. Unfortunately, health food stores owners are victims of salesmen. And the salesmen have chosen not to study. They go to a brokerage house and they buy at the best price and they sell at the highest price. It's called the retail wholesale market. And the health food store owner doesn't have the ability to travel abroad and study at universities as I've had, and have a GC where they can bring an oil in and analyze it and make sure the oil they're putting on their shelf is pure. 99% of what's being sold in North America is what we call fractionated oil, which is basically perfume oil, or low-grade essential oil of about 5 to 10% that's cut with synthetic compounds, and that's a common practice. And because there's no regulation in North America, it's just open game.
So that oil that they get at the health food store would not help them the same way?
Absolutely not. In fact, it can create a toxic reaction because petrochemicals are a #1 cause of a lot of our cancers, and it can cause a lot of skin irritation. Now, people who have absorbed a lot of chemicals, if they put a pure oil on their skin, and it'll react against chemicals, like people that wear a lot of artificial suntan oil, particularly here on the islands. And then if you put a pure oil on there, that oil molecule is going to work against the chemical, the synthetic chemical in the skin, and that can create a reaction too. So that's why it's so important to cleanse. Cleanse, cleanse.
Cleanse, cleanse, cleanse.
Can I ask a question from behind the camera here?
Why don't you
Sure.
come out here, Jason?
Oh, I will. I want to know about blends. I've seen you have blends with great names like Chivalry and Valor and Thieves, and I'm sure they all have different essences together. But I was curious how you bundle them and name them like that.
Hey, thank you for that question. I do make a lot of blends, and for me, the compounding of the oils to make the formulas, to make the blends, it's a passion for me. And trying to just think of how I can go here and expressing it, but when I have a feeling that I want to create something, for example, like the seminar we just had here in Maui. This seminar was about life and leadership and transforming our lives. And so I wanted to make an oil to help empower people to go through their transformation. I choose the concept that I want, and then I just go into myself, and the oils are just there. I mean, it just comes into my mind like a visual, and I just see the oils and exactly the formula that they need to compound into. And one of the things that's important, that anyone can take oils and mix them, pour them together and make fragrances, and you'll create a beautiful fragrance. But if you're looking for a specific attribute or a specific outcome, you have to compound the formula very specifically, because if you don't mix it so the molecules in the oil and the chemical molecules in the oil mix with the other oil you're mixing with, you can actually neutralize an effect you're trying to get. Like if you're mixing mountain savory and oregano and thyme to create a really powerful antiviral compound, if you don't know how to mix the carvacrols and the thymals in percentage, you can neutralize the effect and not get an antiviral formula. So knowing the chemistry is very important in compounding. And so when I'm looking, for example, I want to create a transformational oil that's going to help people reach inside themselves and feel the desire to change, and then to have the ability mentally to lock on to that desire to change. And so I go to the oils that are going to affect DNA, frankincense and sandalwood. I look at oils that are going to be high oxygenators. Again, peppermint is a high oxygenator. Lemon is a high oxygenator. I look at cardamom that has a very direct effect on the neurocortex in the brain, because I want to trigger the firing of the synapse in the brain. And so then I start compounding those oils in percentages to work in the aspects in that direction.
Well, I love your blends. I mean,
They're fun.
I use Joy all the time. All the time. Everybody says, what do you have on? But I got to use his transformation during this workshop that we did, and it was amazing. It just felt like everything just shifted.
It does, doesn't it?
Oh, it was,
Yeah, and it's so
truly amazing.
lifting, and a lot of people express it as being euphoric, and part of that is because of increasing the oxygen. And clary sage, with the sclerol in clary sage, it has a very profound effect on the hormones in the body, and the human growth hormone is one of them. And so it creates this incredible oxygen surge to the pituitary, releasing human growth hormone that creates this euphoric feeling. And so it can literally create a feeling as you experience moving into another dimension.
It was very euphoric. I mean, the whole thing was euphoric, but that oil was just amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting. Very
It's
exciting.
really, really wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that.
You're welcome.
It's really fantastic.
I'm sneaking in for a second, then I'm going back.
All right.
I just wanted to be here with you. You know, I haven't had a medical challenge, and as I'm listening to you, do people take your oils and enjoy them? Like, I really enjoy the smell of valor and of chivalry and thieves. I've been attracted to them, and they've been fun for me. Can I do it that way? Is that?
Oh, absolutely. This is not about having a disease.
Yeah.
The value, if someone does, they're there for that, prevention or treatment. I mean, frankincense, as we know, and many of the oils now that are coming out of the research, as I mentioned, are just phenomenal. But the objective here is not waiting until you get a disease, but use them in the home. Like, we have a diffuser, and we make that and market it through the company. And it's a little air-operated device that you put the oils in, and it breaks it into a very, very fine mist and puts it in the home.
I have one.
This helps people who are sad, like joy. You put it in the diffuser, they breathe it, and immediately triggers a feeling of happiness. You know, and it brings them out of that feeling of sadness. People who are depressed, you put hope in the diffuser, the blend of hope, which has frankincense and melissa, and diffuse it, or just rub it on the ears, and it'll pull them right out of depression. You know, peace and calming is a blend that I made for children.
No more Prozac.
Exactly, exactly. You know, I tell people, if you look at the chemistry of frankincense, one of its attributes is it's an antidepressant. So I tell folks, don't use Prozac, snort a line of frankincense. But it's so powerful. But we also, look at our children, the children that are being put on Ritalin. Folks, I've been around the world hundreds of times, and I have spent thousands and thousands of hours in research and study. I haven't found one child that has a Ritalin deficiency. So what's wrong with this picture? Okay? And peace and calming will take a child that's hyperactive and just soothe them right out. You take children that won't sleep at night, rub a little lavender, a little chamomile on the bottom of their feet, and just a little bit up their spine, and they're out like a light. You know, it's just
better than
phenomenal.
staying up all night.
Are they starting to teach this more in colleges around here? Are there any kind of...
We're breaking into universities and colleges now. There's a lot more interest. In fact, there's a whole movement started right now, and it's centered in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, called the World Health Organization for Natural Medicine. And it's a break-off of the World Health Organization. And what they recognize is that a lot of the third world countries, the people are dying from the side effects of our Western medicine.
Oh, absolutely.
And particularly a lot of these tribes in Africa. And they're demanding the World Health Organization come back to their indigenous medicine. I just got called to sit on the board of directors for this newly formed organization. We're having our first World Congress in Toronto, October 15th and 16th of this year, and I'll be one of the key speakers there, presenting the research on essential oils for many of these conditions.
I'm going to leave you here. I just wanted to come and be here with you. I'm really glad that you were able to join Airielle and me here. And I'll let you continue your conversation. I really hope that through our sharing here, we're able to bring you guys a little closer to look at things. You know, sometimes I'm from the alternative energy industry, and I used to say there is no alternative. I think
That's
the same
right.
here.
That's right.
This is not alternative medicine. This is really essential basics, simple truths that are being reshared again. It's almost like we're getting out of the all this vague area into very specific things that, like you say, they're biblical for a reason.
Well, if we really look at it, what we're doing is medicine. What has been called Western medicine, that's really the alternative.
That's what I was just getting ready to say.
This is the real medicine. God gave it to us, and He said, you know, the herbs of the field shall be our medicine. And folks, if you want some fun reading, go into your Bible. I call it my owner's operator's manual, and read the book of Exodus. And it tells you all about essential oils there and how they were used and how Moses formulated them to protect the Israelites against the viruses and the plagues, which they now are starting to recognize that the plague that came and took the firstborn son may have been nothing more than what we're dealing with today called AIDS. And so, really,
wow.
And this is a major study that's going on in Cairo University right now. It's very phenomenal, and they believe that our modern day AIDS is just a mutation from that particular virus.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes, and when you look at the oils that were used in that Bible, and I have, in fact, I compounded a formula very similar to the one that's mentioned in the book of Exodus, and we call it Exodus.
It's a wonderful oil, too.
So
yes.
This is so fun and beautiful.
Well, you know, Gary, I know you're a very spiritual man. Do you believe that God has led you into this and to assist the world? I mean, I feel like you're being thoroughly led, and like when you say how you create your blends, this little piece in me goes, ah, but he's got help.
Airielle, there is no question. I do have help, and I know it. Am I being led? Sometimes I don't feel like I'm being led, I feel like I'm being pushed. And, you know, I look back over the years now and I think, okay, Father, I was so hard-headed that Father used a tree to hit me with to get my attention, so I'd start listening. And it has been a remarkable journey, and these oils have rejuvenated my body, and it's been, you know, I can't express enough the passion that I have for the greatest gift that God has given us, and that is these oils. Incidentally, I might mention that the essential oils, as we've studied history now, and particularly back in China, that the crude method of extraction goes back 10,000 years before Christ.
Wow.
And was being used before a lot of cultures were even using herbs. And so the history is phenomenal.
Well, how the oil is distilled and taken is very important, as well as the plant, right?
It's really, and one of the things that happens, unfortunately, they have found that when they combine chemicals, solvents, into the steam and distillation, they can extract more oil. Once that happens, you cannot separate the chemical molecule from the oil molecule. And this happens a lot in commercial distilling, and so when people are oils, they don't know if that's what they're getting either. That's why every oil that we have, I am responsible for the. I personally contracted with my growers, and they distill at my qualifications. I have built 6 distillers myself personally, and currently right now owns and operates the largest herb farm and distillery operation that exists in the world, and that's in Utah. And we have 2 farms in Idaho, the largest one in Utah and then one in France, in the Provence, in the Simeon Valley, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. So, you know, I have given my life and my heart into this. And I must say this, I was really pleased today to go visit a little lavender farm here on your island in Maui. And I just want to say to Ali, it was a joy to meet you and spend time with you. And I encourage all of you folks here on the island to go up and meet this beautiful, beautiful man. He's really a son of God, and he's just doing things to help people. And what a glorious place to visit and to go and experience. And we're going to be working together, and we're going to set up a little distillery there so he can do distilling and demonstrations on his little farm here on your island, folks.
Thank you for including our little Maui here.
Oh, it's a beautiful place.
Thank you. You know, I just want to, I know Jason's giving me a wrap-up sign, but I'm ignoring it for a moment. I want to go back to one thing.
Okay.
You were talking about that soda pop, and we saw some pictures of what soda pop does to the blood. It was amazing. And Gary's got something called berry young juice that is from the wolfberries, right?
It is. Oh, Airielle.
It's amazing, folks. Tell us just a few minutes. Stop rapping.
Well, now you're going to start a whole other chapter here.
Well, just a little tiny bit.
If I can just cap it as quick as I can. The wolfberry comes from Inner Mongolia on the high plateaus of the Elbow River, the Yellow River on the Elbow Plateau in Inner Mongolia. the wolfberry is the only food that has been documented in our world, I mean in our world folks, documented, to reverse the aging process. And I imported that. I was the first to bring it into North America and the first to process it and make food products. I've made multiple fruit products. I've also created this beautiful juice blend with the wolfberry extract. And it literally does. And also it's been documented that the juice improves visual acuity, so it increases eyesight. And it was really beautiful. There's a lady here at our conference this week that had terrible vision. She'd been wearing glasses for years. She's been drinking 2 and 3 ounces of the juice daily, and she no longer wears glasses today after 22 years of wearing glasses. She came up and shared that with me, and it's so rewarding to see and feel these experiences.
Well, you know, I've used that wolfberry juice. I went through 1 bottle, but I want to guarantee you that it's going to be on my shelf and in my mouth from now on.
Oh.
I mean, after I saw these tests, and it's the highest antioxidant
Yes, it is.
available that you can get anywhere.
The highest in the world.
And that's from Tufts University.
Yeah, that comes right from Tufts University and Burnswick Laboratory on the East Coast have both made those documentations.
Well, you know, there's just so many things I want to tell you about. He makes these wonderful supplements. We could just go on, and I'm still getting that wrap-up sign. So I'm going to tell you all, thank you for joining us, and I hope that this opens your heart and your eyes and to something new that we can all heal with. It's available to all of us. And thank you for doing that, Gary, for all the work and the love that you put into it. I really thank you. You're a beautiful man.
Airielle, likewise, you are too, and I appreciate all that you're doing. And I appreciate all of you folks for listening to this program. We all have to join together in making this planet a better place for our children tomorrow, because it is really about our children. Thank you.
It certainly is. Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you all so much. And I'm going to give you a big aloha.
Aloha.
Mwah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you all have a great night. And get those oils and use them. And the wolfberry too. Aloha.
Aloha. See you again.
No matter where you go, no matter what you do, take that Maui style with you. Cause if you ain't Maui styling, you just living on an island. Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 There is sunshine in your heart. It's been with you from the start. Lift your head, look to the heavens, then you will feel brand new again. Don't stop me now, Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Reach out your hand and help each other. Your mother, your father, your sister and brother. There is love in this family. Pick yourself up and get on your feet. Don't stop me now, Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Makena styling, up country styling, Campo styling, Kahanapali styling, Hana styling, Waiehu styling.